So I just watched Avengers Infinity War a week or so back, and I've got to say, much shit as I give Marvel, honestly, this is kind of entertaining. Definitely something I expected to happen. The cop-out ending is kind of cheap, but today I'm going to be reviewing it and getting into what I think was interesting about it, some criticisms I have with it, how I think they can improve, and what generally surprised me. Because we got to know that that's something that I don't say about Marvel movies that often. Let's start with the characters. You know, it's ironic. I actually prefer villains from DC Universe a lot more, and even some characters like Batman because they're so timeless. But I gotta say, Marvel, over the span of, 10 years or so, probably even more, they pulled up some generally interesting characters with shit going on. For example, I always enjoy Iron Man, even if I'm not a big Tony Stark buff. Captain America, good as usual. Nebula, I didn't really enjoy. A lot of the Guardians felt a bit off in this movie, apart from Drax, who was charismatic and fun as always. Honestly, I kind of feel like Gamora is just boring at this point. Peter Quill, fine, serviceable. Rocket Raccoon, fine, serviceable. I have basically nothing to say about them. Mantis, I never really gave a shit about in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I care even less for here. Most of the characters are pretty on point. As you can imagine, there's some missing. For example, Hawkeye, who just never appeared. Whatever, they wrapped him up in Age of Ultron pretty well. Probably the only good part about Age of Ultron. I felt like a lot of the Avengers were on point. Black Widow, fine. Hulk, I'm glad they didn't do that stupid romance thing again. Hulk's character was honestly less annoying than in Ragnarok, which I'm happy they did. Nick Fury didn't appear either. Whatever, don't care. Doctor Strange is fun and as likable as usual. He's a very charming character, very charismatic. He's got a lot to go, and he's definitely responsible for the best visuals in the film. There's a scene where he literally gets out this sort of whip thing and then just wraps Thanos in it while copying himself like 90 times. One of the best visuals ever. That's the reason I enjoyed the Doctor Strange film as much as I did. But on other characters, are like they've introduced some new one. I think they're called the Children of Thanos. There's three of them. This old guy, this buff guy, and this like edgy girl. They were fine. I don't think we're going to be seeing them much after this film, especially the old guy. But for what they were worth, they did fine. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Tom Holland portrays the character in a really good way. I felt like he could have done better at points, but all in all, the actors have done a serviceable job. Very nice. It is very much a Marvel movie, but it did surprise me a little bit. Ironically enough, this is probably the best villain, the best antagonist that Marvel's ever had. Thanos, the Mad Titan, was definitely the highlight of the movie for me. I mean, even as much as I like stuff like Star-Lord, Iron Man, and even Spider-Man, whenever they're on-screen talking, having really good banter, I will say that the dialogue is on point, character interactions, amazing. This is just a great job as usual. But it just kind of like whenever they're on screen, I feel like I want them off so I can see more of Thanos. The scene's very nice with Thanos. The part where he's on Titan, the part where he's fighting all the Guardians, the Avengers, everything. Very nice. I liked a lot of this film, to be honest. There were just some parts I found really dull. For example, the story was a bit one note, even if Thanos does have a cool motivation. I felt it could have gone like more places in a more solid pace, but for what we got, Infinity War was definitely worth the build-up. I will say it is very much a Marvel movie. And it's not my favourite. I enjoyed definitely Winter Soldier a lot more. I enjoyed Spider-Man Homecoming even more, which is kind of weird for me to say, but whatever. But it's definitely worth a watch, at least one watch that is. Infinity War, while being very bombastic, has a really good pacing. Ironically, it doesn't really have a third act low point or a second act low point like most movies do. It's structured in such a way that's not really traditional Marvel. So in that sense, I'm glad it's not as predictable. There's literally a scene where Hulk is running in this Hulkbuster suit and he never turns into the Hulk and busts out of it, which would have been predictable Marvel. Thanos is really cool. The way he gains all the Infinity Stones is awesome. It was just kind of out of character for someone like Doctor Strange to say, I'm not going to help you, Stark. Next minute, he just gives him the stones so he spares Tony Stark. Thanos is a great villain, as I said, but like I feel like he could have done more. He got good scene with Gamora, Nebula, who I've never really been a fucking fan of, but, not like she's going anywhere at this point. They do fake out a lot of deaths. We have deaths like Loki and Gamora, but they're signed on for fucking endless sequels, so it's not like it's really going to matter in the end, is it? And then there's obviously Spider-Man, Groot, a lot of people, they sort of fade away at the end when Thanos snaps half of them out of existence. A few inconsistencies I've noticed, for example, when the Hulk crashes to Earth, he goes, Thanos is coming. But I don't understand. When he was the Hulk in Ragnarok, he didn't remember any of the events from there, but he suddenly remembers Thanos when he's the Hulk now. Inconsistencies, as I said, but generally I really liked what I saw. Now, let's get into the CGI. The CGI and special effects in general I felt were very good. There's rarely a dull moment, maybe the old guy from the Children of Thanos who looks a bit overdone, to be honest, but for the most part, after Justice League, I was worried because Stefan looked so appallingly bad that I was really worried about a CG villain again, a fully CG villain. Josh Brolin does a great job with the motion capture suit, wonderful voice for Thanos. I cannot picture anyone else doing him now. He was great in those stupid end credit scenes at the end of every Marvel movie, but here, really fucking good. And Thanos is, as I said, a really good villain. I wish he had his helmet on more. The complaint I don't have is, where the fuck is his costume? He's supposed to be conquering the world. Why is he in his fucking pajamas? But, something really... A criticism I have of the film, a few criticisms I have. The score, fucking awful, as it is in most Marvel movies. The soundtrack is so forgettable. It's just generic orchestral bullcrap, and, it makes tense moments feel less tense. I also feel that stupid donut flying in the sky that they keep chasing at the beginning of the film, that was dumb. Didn't really like. I thought it was just meant to be a one-time portal where Thanos came through. Whatever, doesn't matter. Also, another thing is that the general audience is dumbed down so much that every new fucking planet they're on, they have to show a title card. Even if it does help with exposition, I just think it's kind of lazy and a bit of a cop-out way. They didn't do that in Game of Thrones. They didn't do that in Lord of the Rings. So what's this fucking thing's problem? I mean, they didn't even do it in Justice League, or to a further extent anyway. But for what it's worth, Infinity War is a fun romp, and that's all it needs to be. There are stupid elements like bad score, occasionally bad cinematography. I found a lot of the fighting in Wakanda was very boring. Seriously, they're just fighting fucking xenomorph ripoffs. That's not fun. That's not engaging. That's just, you're fighting mindless drones of fucking aliens and shit. Children of Thanos ended up doing nothing, which I'm fine with, because we want to focus on Thanos himself, because he's a great villain. Honestly, he's on par with a DC villain at this point, just because of how good he is. But at the end of the day, I really did enjoy Infinity War, and that's something I rarely say for Marvel movies. At the end of the day, Avengers Infinity War is a good movie. It's not great, it's not groundbreaking, has a terrible score, really good acting, nice plot, if not a bit inconsistent, and which kind of annoys me. Thanos, good villain, with good, not really great, but original motivations. Something I would definitely rewatch, but not right fucking now. It's fine, it was worth the hype, nothing more. It was fine. So, my final score for Avengers, 7.4 out of 10. That's just how I feel. And that is a good score, okay? Do not, sort of fault me for just having a different score than other people. I mean, at the end of the day, this is just how I feel. It is very much a generic Marvel movie at its core. It's just structured in an interesting and refreshing way. And this is definitely worth the wait that Infinity War was built up for so many years. Do I recommend this film? To our Marvel fans, definitely. To general movie-going audience members, definitely. To hardcore film critics, definitely not, but you'll probably get some enjoyment out of this regardless. Thanks for watching.